Okay, so we had sexuality in childhood and adolescence. So what is sexuality? Sexuality is the capacity for sexual feelings or tendencies, and this can include sexual activity, gender identity, sexual orientation. More in depth than that is sexual behavior such as heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, even celibate. Gender identity, you can be girl, female, boy, man, transgender. As far as sexual orientation, that goes with the LGBTQ community. Sorry, and that is like lesbian, gay, straight, bi, asexual, queer. And as far as sex, it goes male, female, or intersex. And then gender roles is feminine and masculine.
This is infant sexuality. So infant sexuality, they have reflex activities such as sucking, crying, or touching. The video displays how newborns have a sucking reflex.
Hey everyone, it's Sarah with RegisteredNurseRN.com, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to assess the sucking reflex in a newborn. And just like the rooting reflex, the sucking reflex helps the baby feed. It's going to play a role with nutrition. So you will see this whenever something touches the top of the infant's mouth on the inside. It's specifically that hard palate of the mouth, so the roof of the mouth. The infant will actually automatically just start sucking. It's an involuntary thing that happens. So again, this helps the infant with feeding by allowing the infant to pull food from its food source, like the breast or a bottle. Now, this reflex tends to disappear at about 4 months, and it will actually become a voluntary function. Okay, so that wraps up this video on how to assess the sucking reflex in a newborn, and be sure to check out the other videos in this series. Hey everyone, it's Sarah.
Those involuntary reflexes then turn into voluntary reflexes. So infant sexuality is the foundation for all the stages of growth that follow infancy. Psychological development starts right after birth. Starting at the time of birth, actions that impact a baby's sexuality are stroking, cuddling, bathing, and any other stimulation that a parent can give. Infancy response range from facial expressions, interpreting their parents' tone of voice, reading body languages, and physical response to touch. Infancy response, infants gather information from people around them. This video also displays a baby imitating the father figure. This shows
So into the sexual response of infants, the first signs of sexual stimulation can be detected in the euro for males, and like that goes with erections on ultrasounds and sonograms. Females show signs of sexual stimulation soon after birth through vaginal swelling and lubrication, and this carries all throughout their life. Orgasms can both occur for both genders at any time at birth, after birth.
And as an infant develops into childhood, they gain better understanding of sexuality and the world around them.
So now we go into childhood sexuality. Andre, if you want to take this one.
For childhood sexuality, all these quantities start around the age of 3. So their awareness and curiosity as sex occurs, masturbation or permission to feel pleasure, and some normal childhood sexual behaviors.
So
awareness. Oh, sorry.
I thought this was awareness and curiosity and sex. So children begin to explore their options with sex and also get brought into new ideas and thoughts and stimulations that they have never been experienced to before. So as far as children in grade school, they're introduced to new environments with many different aspects so they can strike their sexual curiosities. And this video that we're about to show kind of just goes into detail and is a little bit of like a real life scenario of how children view like the difference between boys and girls.
You and I, yeah.
I know a way, but I think it's really disturbing.
What is disturbing?
You know how you tell a boy pup from a girl pup? You know when people hit their thing in between their legs, you know how they say, "Oh my nuts."
What?
Oh my nuts. They actually mean
Who said this?
I'm just trying to express what the question you asked
Okay.
me.
No, you go ahead. So again, what's the difference between a boy and a girl?
Well, I shouldn't say the disturbing way, but most girls have longer hair than boys.
Okay.
So that just
You
goes
and I,
into
yeah.
more detail of how kids start to like view other children and also learn about themselves and other genders.
Am I reading this one too?
Yes.
Okay. So children begin to play with their genitals. They find this pleasurable and continue to do so until they're stopped by like an authority figure, like such as like their parents. This action is normal when a child's sexuality is developing. Family contribution to a child's sexuality. So families don't realize their impact on their child's development. Examples such as like family nudity, swimming, dressing their kid, bathing, or like any other actions that involve nudity, like needs to be respected within those contexts. So any type of embarrassment, humiliation, or lack of respect for privacy can drastically alter like a child's view on their sexuality. Affection and expressing positive love is also a great way to boost their confidence and outlook on their sexuality. On to adolescence. So this phase includes ages 11 and 19. Around this time, they begin to explore and understand their sexuality more. So sexuality, their curiosity spikes during this cycle, and the stage of development that occurs between the very beginning of puberty and all the way into like adulthood. Puberty is the capability of reproduction. So around this time, females specifically around the age of 12 begin their menstrual cycle, their breasts begin to develop, and pubic hair starts to show. For males, this begins around the age of 14. So just like females, pubic hair, armpit hair, even facial hair, and their voice gets a little bit deeper. So the top two like sex acts that occur around this time are like partnered sex and masturbation. So self-pleasure and sexual arousal become even more prevalent around this time. So for masturbation, this supports an individual's like familiarity with sexual responses. So they get to know what makes them more comfortable during times of pleasure. And then sex, specifically with another partner, provides like experimental framework and influences their future decisions regarding sexual interactions. So this highlights the need for like more education on sexual experiences.
So next is sexuality education. And with this comes a history of sexuality education. So sex ed in the United States was first created in 1981 under the Reagan administration. However, whenever it was first created, there was a strong focus on abstinence-only education, and there were several attempts to exclude any information on reproductive health or any actual useful sexual education. This abstinence-only model continued up until under the George W. Bush administration, where over $1 billion was spent just on initiatives encouraging teens to abstain from having sex. These models, however, ended under the Obama administration, and instead new programs focused on decreasing teenage pregnancy, as well as programs aimed at improving decision-making and improving life skills were implemented as well. So within sexuality education, although those old dated models were expunged under the Obama administration, there is still continued federal funding towards those abstinence-only programs. This is even more alarming considering that recent research has found that abstinence-only education is ineffective in preventing STIs, HIV, and teen pregnancy, as there's really no information on practicing safe sex, rather just avoiding sex entirely. Furthermore, sexuality education is also tarnished by several misconceptions. Several adults and parents may think that comprehensive and inclusive sex education may encourage adolescents to have sex at a younger age. However, studies in countries in Europe found that there was actually no tendency to have sex earlier than what would be considered the national average in those countries. Furthermore, it's thought that teenage pregnancy may increase due to more inclusive education. However, not only teen pregnancy, but also the transmission of STIs and HIV is also decreased in areas where there is comprehensive sex education. Furthermore, there are also a variety of flaws in inclusivity as far as sex education goes. Several programs and curriculum fail to even acknowledge different sexual minorities, several within the queer community. And most of the time they're only acknowledged, and sometimes there's no information at all. There's specifically very little information concerning transgender adolescents, and any information that is included focuses much more on figuring out identity and less on the physicality and the different changes that your body goes through whenever you're transitioning. There's not really any information in current curriculum. This can lead to an increase in several risk behaviors, such as unprotected sex, which can then increase STI transmission. So how do we fix this? We fix it by introducing comprehensive sexual education. There are several benefits. First and foremost is that there are a variety of topics that are focused on within CSE, including masturbation, pleasure, intimacy, and other topics that are considered inappropriate in traditional curriculums. This can help to build self-confidence in the individual, which can then help them develop stronger relationships later on as an adult. Furthermore, modern comprehensive sexuality education challenges gender norms within our society and how those are traditionally set, which can allow those gender norms to be redefined as adolescents grow older, which can decrease interdomestic partner violence and other negative behaviors, which can allow them to become better prepared adults. So thank you. And in conclusion, sexuality can change a lot as you're developing from infancy all the way to adolescence. And by educating those adolescents more proactively on sexual education, we can help prepare them to be better adults.